Hey, it's Whitney. Welcome back to another episode of Web3 with Whitney. And if this is your very first episode, welcome for the very first time. Today, I'm going to talk about how to find your place in Web3, meaning how to figure out how Web3 works for you, for your career, for your personal life. It can feel confusing if you're not even in this space yet and you're just hearing this term. Maybe you haven't even heard the term Web3. Maybe you're just familiar with cryptocurrency, NFTs, and the metaverse. And that's basically all within this umbrella of Web3. And it's just an easy way to refer to it, basically. So we're going to get into that today. But before I do, first of all, I like to start off reminding you that there is a whole load of resources and more coming over at whitneylauritsen.com/web3. That is linked in my profile. That's linked underneath the description of this video. And my favorite part of that website is that there is there's two favorite parts, I should say. Number one is that you could go on here and ask a question or submit a topic request and get some free Wellcoin, which is my social token on rally.io. It's basically free cryptocurrency from me and a way to get you in the game, especially if you're not in there yet, or if you're curious about social tokens, or you just want some free currency. I will send you some. You just send over a question in that little form and give me your email address. Or please, it sounds so rude. Give me your email address. I would love to have your email address. And it's not adding you to a newsletter. I actually, the only newsletter I send out right now is for my podcast, my main podcast. This might get uncomfortable. So I promise I'm not going to spam you. I just need your email address to send you the coin. Eventually, I might start a podcast that ties this in. So I'll keep you posted on that too. My second favorite thing on whitneylauritsen.com/web3 is that you can listen to this entirely as an audio recording. If you're not already, if you're watching the video right now, you can go over there. You can find all the previous episodes. I feel a little self-conscious about the first 10 episodes of this show because I had tech issues. I was getting into my flow. So I was thinking yesterday, like, I want to revamp the beginning of it. So especially if you're starting from the very beginning, it makes me cringe a little bit. And that's what most people do. I've been checking the statistics and I'm like, oh, they're seeing the worst part. It's so tough when you're starting something new and you just want it to feel perfect all the time. But that's part of the journey, is not making everything perfect. So that's what you get over at whitneylauritsen.com. And it's just an easy way for you to get in touch with me too. I also want to wish you happy Valentine's Day, even if you're not celebrating it. Sometimes it just feels good to hear it, right? To get a little extra love your way. And if you're feeling lonely, actually on my Instagram at Whit Lauritsen, I posted about how I'm sending out some handwritten cards and sending people free Wellcoin. So if you want a card from me, if you want some more coins without doing anything, if you want to join my online community Beyond Measure, which I'll talk about another day, all of that, I wanted to connect to Valentine's Day just to make sure that everybody feels some love today, because not everybody has the privilege of feeling that, honestly. And a day like today can be very triggering for loneliness. And I just want to remind you, you're not alone. That's one of the big aims of this show, is to hold a space for you, to make you feel included and equal and know that we're in this together. And I just hope that you're feeling good somehow today. I'm actually going to go out and get some chocolate after this at a chocolate shop I haven't been to, go get some Thai food. I'm really excited. And then what am I going to do tonight? Watch some sort of show. I have so many TV shows. Are you the same? Do you watch a lot of TV? I just like to lay back and not work on my computer, and then I just end up watching a TV show. Speaking of which, that's something else I want to bring up today, which is the Super Bowl. So the Super Bowl is interesting on a number of levels, especially on Twitter. If you didn't spend time on Twitter, you probably will feel a little out of the loop. Maybe you didn't even watch the Super Bowl, but I was fascinating observing the Super Bowl through the lens of Twitter from a number of reasons. One is a lot of people were talking about the halftime show, which anyone who grew up listening to the music that was performed, it was very exciting. There was a lot of commentary about people who didn't grow up with that music or were, quote, too old for that music. So there was a lot of like generational divides happening, which I'm not generally a fan of. But of course, there was a ton of talk about Web3. In fact, a number of Web3 elements were integrated into the Super Bowl. The biggest talk of the town was about Coinbase, sorry, crypto.com. I think they had an ad. Coinbase definitely did. And if you were watching, it was this bouncing QR code. And man, did the internet explode over that. Their website went down. And if you scan that QR code, if you're brand new to Coinbase, you could get $15. And if you already have an account on there for a limited period of time, they're like entering you in a money giveaway. So I thought that was cool. I don't know if it quite justified how big of a deal it was on Twitter, but there was like people that were really excited about Coinbase and thought the ad was brilliant. There were people that thought the ad was really lame. There were people that didn't get it. Like, it was just kind of an interesting conversation. And then there was a lot of frustration over the fact that a lot of people thought there was going to be more about Web3 in the Super Bowl, especially with the Bored Apes Yacht Club, which I've talked about a few times recently. I think people thought that was going to be integrated into the halftime show, and it wasn't, so they were disappointed. And it was a good example of how things can get really hyped up, but it might be misinformation. So that to me is a good lesson to remember to take your time in Web3, as I've said before. Slow down. Don't believe everything you see and read. Not everything people predict is going to be accurate. And I hope that it doesn't harm you if it's misinformation. I think that's really important, and that ties into today's topic. Also, a little side story I want to share. I'm wearing this shirt today from this company that I met in real life yesterday in Santa Monica. For those that don't know, I live in Los Angeles, and I went to Santa Monica to meet up with a friend, and we were sitting outside near the beach on a patch of grass, and all of a sudden these people came up to us and they said, "Hey, do you want a free tank top?" And I didn't really want a free tank top, so I was about to say no until they said, "Our company is all about cryptocurrency." So I wanted to pull them up for you here. It's called Sucoswap.org. If you want to go to their website. They're also, of course, on Twitter at Sucoswap. And they call themselves the easiest place to trade crypto, guaranteed, which is interesting. They were passing out QR codes and the tank tops, and they're all about helping you get started with decentralized currency, especially for beginners that want to start getting investing in it and becoming more familiar with crypto, decentralized finance. And apparently they make it really easy. And it's actually kind of cool. They have two boxes on their website, like buttons you can click. One says, "I'm still new to crypto," and the other one says, "I've experienced." I have not clicked on this yet, but it looks like it's a little quiz. So it says, "Have you used a decentralized exchange?" I'm going to say yes. And then it brings you over to some app. Remember to be careful what you click. I met these people in person, so I trust them. And their website looked legitimate enough. And this is what you get to if you're watching the video version of the show. You can see this and kind of click around through their site. This is all I know so far about them, but I'm going to look into them more. They also seem pretty legit because their website looks awesome, and they have 18,000 followers on Twitter. Not that a following always means that you're legitimate, but they're cool. So I followed them and I got a free tank top, and it was just kind of neat. It was a good example of how much Web3 is popping up into people's world. But it was also one of those things that was interesting, that it feels like such a trend and it feels so hyped up, cryptocurrency. And I could see why people might feel skeptical of it and wondering, like, is this just one big cash grab? So it's a fascinating time. That's for sure. All right. So a couple things before I dive into the main topic. I just wanted to share a Twitter thread that could be helpful. This is linked in the description of this episode. And this is from an account at Rex Woodbury, who has a really nice breakdown on different elements of Web3. I like to keep you in the know. And anytime I find a really good Twitter thread, I feel like it becomes a good resource. So he said there's a lot of buzzwords in tech right now, like creator, community, Web3, NFTs, and the metaverse. The thing is, they all connect. So they're all intersecting and building on each other to forward the next generation of the internet. Here's how I think everything connects. So you can go check out his thread, read more about it. It's really in depth. I'll probably reference this in the future too. I haven't made my way through all of it, but I really like the way it's laid out and lots of good insight. Um, and this is a great segue into what I want to talk about today, which is finding your own space. I know that it can feel really overwhelming. I'm going to pause for a second to say happy Valentine's Day back to one of the live viewers. Thanks for being here. I've noticed that there's kind of two types of people. I guess I'm just going to really generalize and put people into categories. There's the people that are already in Web3 and they're knowledgeable and they're passionate, they're go-getters, they're just like deep in this world. It's rare that I come across someone in Web3 who isn't that into it yet. Like they're at least, just in my experience, I have not met a lot of newbies in Web3. Most of the people I know in Web3 are like really in it. They're just like moving really fast. They're either moving as fast as I am or much, much faster. And as I mentioned before, that can be very overwhelming. That can lead to the comparison trap. Then the second category of people to generalize is people that barely know anything about Web3. Maybe they have some cryptocurrency, but they're like very confused. They might not even know the term Web3. They've heard about crypto and NFTs, but they kind of scare them and they overwhelm them. And that's really the type of people that I'm trying to reach with this show, just to make it feel more accessible and easy. And I've noticed with that second type of category, and if you want to let me know either live, if you're watching right now, or if you're listening later, you can message me and get some free well coin as a thank you for it. I would love to know which category you'd put yourself in. You could also kind of be in between. That's possible too. Like maybe you are just brand new to Web3, but you haven't even bought it. You're just stepping back to observe it. And maybe you're thinking to yourself, how does this apply to my life? How will this benefit me and those around me? And I think that's a really important question. So here's what I think you can do to figure this out. Number one, obviously, if you've been watching the show or even just now through this episode, you've realized that I find Twitter really valuable. In fact, that is the number one place I turn to for Web3 content right now, for information, for connecting with people. Twitter just feels like this thriving hub of Web3 people. Now, what's interesting is that you're not always going to learn a lot. There's certainly misinformation. There's scams going on there. As I've said over and over again, you really have to be mindful about who you follow and who you trust on any platform, but definitely true on Twitter. I still recommend that you go on there. And a great way to navigate that space is to create some lists. I've talked about this before. You can find my main Web3 list on whitneylauritsen.com/Web3. I'm a big fan of it because it helps me keep track and hone in on people that I trust and that I find valuable. And I actually want to continue to refine it. My Web3 list has really evolved over time, and not everybody on here, and I'm referring to one of these lists here on Twitter, this one. Not everyone on this list right now is valuable to me. So I have 143 accounts that I've added, and I might go through and weed some of them out because I found that some people on Twitter are not even posting things completely related. Like I'm following people that are in Web3, but the things that they post on Twitter might not be that helpful or related. People talking about what they had for breakfast, which is fine. But I go on Twitter to connect, to have conversations, and to learn. So I feel like it's really helpful to curate your own list and figure out who you're getting value from, but also thinking about how you can add value too. So as you're following, as you're creating lists, curating who is going to be beneficial to you, it also helps for you to be creating content along the way, even if you don't consider yourself a content creator. So think about how you can connect with these people, how you can get yourself into the conversation. You can retweet the things that they're posting, maybe what they call on Twitter a quote tweet, which is adding your own 2 cents on top of it. You could respond to their tweets in the thread there and add to it. See, not only if this is something I work on and I'm not always very good at. Sometimes I just want to acknowledge something, so I'll give it a heart or a retweet. But what I'm trying to push myself to do is to add something to the conversation, because that not only helps you connect with the people that you're following, but you actually might reach other people. I see this all the time. I read through the Twitter threads and I look at their responses. And sometimes I find amazing new people in the response section. So you could be one of them. And this is a way to get yourself more in the game. And by connecting with people, this is going to help you figure out what you want to get out of Web3. Now, the same thing can be true with Discord, although I'm a bit wary. I'm actually like going back and forth. I've talked about in past episodes how I started my own Discord, but I haven't made it public yet because I'm concerned about security. And this comes up a lot. There are a lot of security issues with Discord right now. So please be careful. You also, just like on Twitter, need to be mindful about what servers you join, who you connect with in there. It can be extremely valuable. It can be a huge waste of time or just a time suck. Maybe not a waste, but it can not always be the greatest use of your time and energy. And hey to John in Rome, Georgia. Cool. Thanks for being here. So take Discord with a grain of salt, make it what you will. Be very mindful about security. But if you go in there to find value, you can learn a ton. And not just learn in the sense of like your education about Web3, but also learning about where your place can be. Think of it as market research. That's one of my biggest encouragement for you. And the same thing goes for email newsletters. I find a ton of value, even though I can get into a bit of the information overload feeling with newsletters. My inbox is just out of control right now, which I feel like is true for a lot of people. I don't have a lot of time and energy to even respond to emails that I'm getting personally, let alone read every newsletter. So be mindful about what you're signing up for, and don't be afraid to unsubscribe from them. You know, like sometimes we think we can just ignore them, leave them in our unread section of our inbox. But just unsubscribe if you're not getting value. Like read a few of their newsletters. If they don't work for you, unsubscribe from them. So that way you're protecting your time and your energy. And just a heads up, if you're watching on TikTok, my phone battery went kind of low. So if the live just disconnects, come on over to one of the other platforms. You can find all the links at whitneylauritsen.com/web3. I'll be live there. My computer has tons of battery, but my phone is about to die. I'm sorry. That's the problem with using these wired headphones. I love the audio of this and the technology better, but I can't simultaneously charge and use these headphones. So anyways, so Discord servers, Twitter, email lists, all great. Podcasts, of course. So if you're listening to the audio version of this, you're probably into podcasts. There are a ton of great podcasts. There's two that I recommend. One, you've probably heard me say it before, NFT 365 by my friend Brian Fanzo is awesome. It's a daily show, and there's so much more information. It's obviously very targeted towards NFTs. But he does talk about different elements of Web3 in there. And I just like Brian's approach. He doesn't use the geek speak. He's very down to earth. He's a lot like me. That's why we became friends. The other that I've been meaning to listen to that I haven't listened to yet, but I'm sure is awesome, is from Michael, is it Selzner from Social Media? Gosh, I'm blanking on all the names of his sites. Social Media. I can't remember. But his show is called Crypto Business, and it looks awesome. I think Brian Fanzo is actually a guest of his show. I've been meaning to listen to it, and because of all of Michael's work in the social media world, Social Media Examiner, that's what it is. All of his history and just experience in social media, I'm sure that podcast is amazing. And really encourage that. And if you have another podcast, email list, Twitter, Discord server you like, send them my way. Shoot them over to me in an email or a DM, or go over to the forum on my website. I'll send you some Wellcoin if you tell me some of your favorite recommendations. Same thing goes for other platforms like YouTube. So go curate your learning experience and try to do a little bit of every day. And again, this is not just to learn, but this is to do your market research. And what I would encourage you to do is to look for where you're leaning towards, what excites you, what lights you up, where are the gaps in the content? What do you think people aren't saying? That's usually a great place for you to step up and say something, or to find other people who are saying it so you can learn from them. How can you apply what you're learning to your specific line of work, to your personal life, to the conversations you're having? Think about it in that term. So it's not just about you taking in information, it's about taking that information and then putting it out into a way that adds value to other people. As with anything, if you view all of this through the lens of adding value and making a difference, it'll completely change the way this integrates into your life, right? And because it's having the ripple effect to other people's lives, because it allows you to apply it versus just consuming it. I think a lot of us get into this place of constantly taking in, but the whole reason I started this show, for example, is so that I can apply it and pass it on. So every time I learn something, I'm thinking, oh, how can I frame this in the terms of my own work? I share it on this show. It has the ripple effect across all of the work that I do, especially on social media. And then who knows what other people are doing with that information too. Another great way to look at it as the NFT 365 podcast inspired me to do this show. So if Brian hadn't created that podcast to share, I would probably not be doing this show, right? There's another person that inspired me. I know they're there. Sometimes they don't come immediately to mind, but so many people have inspired me. And I hope that this show has some ripple effect on your life too, because that's where the real value is. So continuing to brainstorm all of this, also just thinking about what are your passions in general? What are you working on? You might not know immediately how any of that intersects with Web3, but I can almost guarantee you that it does intersect in some way. In fact, somebody asked me a question the other day. Let me see if I can pull up their exact wording to get it right. It was part of the topic requests on my website, and it was related to whether or not I think it's inevitable that we're going to have all of these. Oh yeah, here it is. Do you think Web3 will shadow fully the web we have today? Will outshadow. So I'm guessing they mean like overtake. In that case, I don't know. I think, as I've said before, it's going to be this slow transition that we barely see happening. And it's just an evolution. That's the best way to describe how I think things are going to happen. I think that things are just going to shift. They're going to evolve. Some things will drop off entirely. Some things are just going to merge into it. Facebook Meta is a perfect example. Facebook has gone through a lot of different shifts over time, and now they're emphasizing the metaverse in their work. So they're evolving along with the changes that are happening in Web3. And this is an important thing to think about too, especially if you're looking at this from a business angle and how Web3 will apply to your work. Your work is going to be influenced by Web3. In my opinion, there's almost a guarantee of that. There's no sign of stopping. NFTs are huge. You look at the Super Bowl yesterday as a great example, how that influenced the ads that went out, right? Even in subtle ways. There were some disses. I think Salesforce's ad with Matthew McConaughey, I didn't interpret it as like a diss on the metaverse, but I want to go back and rewatch it because I think it was in some ways. It was something about like the real world versus the virtual world. I could be wrong, but I think that's what I heard. And there are all sorts of little references to it throughout. So great example. I mean, we see how the Super Bowl has changed. You could go back and look at the history of Super Bowl ads and how those have evolved as the web has evolved. So many shifts have happened. And I think we're just going to continue to see this across all industries. Now, maybe you're not thinking about this from a work standpoint. It's just purely your personal life, but still thinking about your passions, you can start to decide what you're going to buy, how you're going to use NFT in your personal life, which NFTs are going to apply to you, which cryptocurrency resonates with you, what element of the metaverse is going to work for you, right? So it starts to actually frame this more positively and give us more optimism instead of thinking of all the bad things, especially if you feel yourself caught up in the skepticism, in the fear, the uncertainty, the doubt, the FUD, as they say in the Web3 space. If you find yourself like hoping that the metaverse doesn't come to fruition and all your, like dreading it, basically, you can put a positive spin on this if you just start thinking about what you love in life, because there's got to be a way that this can all connect, right? Like even my experience yesterday of sitting in the grass along the beach and someone coming up and giving me a free tank top because that was about their cryptocurrency. It was that real life experience. People are really excited to right now about ETH Denver, this Ethereum-based event happening in Denver, Colorado. I think, does it start today or tomorrow? I think people are really excited about it because they get to be in person. So not all of this Web3 world is digital. It will have in-person experiences too. In fact, towards the very beginning of this series, I talked about how, elements of augmented reality, that's the whole point, is like, it's not taking you fully into virtual reality. It's augmenting the current reality that you're living. And I can go on and on about this, but I'll save it for later. Hey, Kevin, thanks for being here. Okay. What else? I wanted to share one other cool article, reference for you. In fact, especially if you're thinking about NFTs and how they can apply, and if you're interested in social media, as I imagine you are, that's probably how you found the show to begin with. There's the last link in my description, as of right now at least, is from TechCrunch, and it's 5 NFT trends that will bring social media audiences into Web3. And they say, whatever the pros and cons, we are already on an inexorable march. Inexorable. That's a term I don't know. I'm assuming that means like we can't avoid it, towards the metaverse. We are increasingly living virtual lives. What Web3 enables is a richer experience in that virtual existence, one that will hopefully feel a little less hollow, a little more human. I love that. I think that is just like such a cool framework for all of this. So go check this article out if you would like, and then you can learn more about how NFTs are going to be connected to social media, whether you are in the social media audience or you're working on the social media end, as more and more people are these days. There's some different benefits like NFT verification, side chains, music, wearables, dynamic avatars. I'm not going to go into any of this in detail, at least not right now. So I will lead you to the article at techcrunch.com. And as you're reading these, just think, does this feel good to you? Do you want these things to happen? And if you don't, there's probably an element of Web3 that's a better fit for you. So I would love to hear from you right now. What do you feel passionate about? One of the things that I do in my work, and something that brings me passion, is hearing about other people's passions and helping them find their path. So if you need help finding your path through Web3, send me a message. I would be really happy to share with you and help guide you in some direction based on the knowledge that I have. I'd also love to hear, what are you already doing if you're working in Web3? What are you working on? What are your favorite resources? Send them all over to me. I want to hear them. So I'll be back with another episode very soon. In fact, I'm going a few minutes over my schedule, so I'm going to wrap up pretty quickly. Remember that the easiest way to get in touch with me is through my website, whitneylauritsen.com. That's linked either down below the video you're watching or in my profile. I will quickly address Kevin's question, which is, aren't NFTs just like nerds reading Pokemon cards? No, but I in some ways, sure, but that's not all they are, Kevin. I have a bunch of episodes about NFTs in the past, so if you go over to the website, you can check that out. Let's see. Where did I best address that thus far? You can find the whole YouTube playlist and then the audio recordings here too. I have one from day 19 of this series about NFTs for creatives that might be helpful for you. Our NFTs a pyramid scheme. That's one of my favorite episodes. And day 4, NFTs. Now, this was on the early day of my show, So I can't say much about the quality of it, but I'm sure that I had the best summary to my ability there. So, Kevin, I encourage you to go over there. Also, the very first episode of the show, Kevin, who also said, I don't know what Web3 is, that gives you an overview of Web3. And as I said at the beginning of this episode, Web3 is an umbrella term for NFTs, for the metaverse, for crypto, for decentralized finance, for all of these different elements of where we're headed as a society in the world of the web. So, those are all becoming larger experiences of our digital lives. And I'm here frequently to support you through it. So I say frequently because my aim and my pattern initially with this series was daily. Now I'm kind of on an every other day schedule. And I don't want to promise an exact day or time that I broadcast again because I am very passionate about protecting my mental health. And I found that when I try to do too much, I get overwhelmed and burnt out, just like I'm sure you can relate to. So I may be back tomorrow or it might be the next day, but you can always find my past episodes at whitneylauritsen.com/web3. And I'm working on all sorts of things for you. So stay tuned. Hit me up on that website if you want to get some free Wellcoin, or you can just send me a direct message, whatever works best for you, because I just want to hear from you. I want to support you. I want to connect with you. And I'm really grateful that you are here today. All right, that's it for now. Have a wonderful rest of your day. If you're celebrating Valentine's Day, enjoy it. And if you're not, just remember you're not alone. In fact, actually, there's one more slide that I wanted to share, which slide. It sounds so old school. There's one more thing I wanted to share, which is just the screen share of on Twitter. Two things for Valentine's Day themes. One is Innerverse DAO, which is one of my favorite accounts on Twitter, shared some heart-shaped craters on Mars. I thought this was really cool. Not really about Web3, but kind of geeky. And Li Jin, who is probably, if I had to pick one person to follow about Web3, it would be her. I think she's absolutely amazing. She is celebrating by helping people match to their dream job in Web3, which ties into today. So you can actually tweet her and she will help you figure out or navigate your way through your career in Web3. So take advantage of that. I'm sure she's going to get bombarded. So the earlier you jump on this, the better. Definitely follow her. And she just has amazing content. So hopefully that's helpful and makes Valentine's Day a little more positive for you. And I will see you with the next episode soon. Bye for now.